thorough pace, premium racing analytics, allowing bettors to identify races with extreme pace scenarios in a matter of seconds. Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. Bet any place, anytime with Capital OTB's mobile wagering platform. And CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier wagering site in New York State.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the studio. A controlled environment.
That was my
air
feeling.
Conditioning.
Oh no, that now you're on the opposite of my feeling.
Really?
I thought when you said welcome back to the studio, why it's like as compared to being up there, that's so lush up there. But yeah, the air conditioning by the end of the day, my hands are like ice.
Seth, well, that's
keep meat fresh in here.
He has a long day. I have. It's my wife and I will never agree on it, but I like it crisp because I can work. I feel sharper. It gets warm and everything. My mind starts to. But in here, I only have to do an hour. Seth's got to do about 7, so I can understand. At the backside of the day, Seth's looking for a little fire under the desk to keep the toast warm. But at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I was saying to the guys before we started that. I know technically we still have about 5 days left of summer, but we're past the halfway point of September. I mean, that's just remarkable. Of course,
it's funny, too. I said it yesterday. It happens every year. Saratoga ends, and once you get like 4 or 5 days away, it seems like it was a long time ago. And I said it yesterday.
I agree.
It was probably about 10 days ago. And
Yeah.
yesterday I was talking about Saratoga races, and it's like, man, seems like a long time.
I agree. It's really, and I think the gap helps promote that idea. I mean, we're of a generation where it's still odd. I mean, we've told the story many times when it used to be 6 days a week racing. They closed on Monday. They ran on Wednesday at Belmont. I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then this gap, which is probably good for the horses and the people. And now we're 4 days a week, etc. But I wore purposely this a Breeders' Cup shirt that I like very much, and the purple tie, because all this week, Seth, all I've heard is the one thing I wish I was so wrong on, which is they're done racing before the Breeders' Cup. These number of horses that, and then. I don't think they call it anymore, and they shouldn't. There's only 3 grade 1s at this Aqueduct meet because I'm not calling it the other thing. But I don't think David Grenning is either, based on his Twitter.
Well, I was surprised. Oh, okay. They did today. Yeah. The racing form yesterday, it just had Aqueduct there. I'm not sure I have yesterday's with me. But the first day or two, the racing form didn't have it. Belmont at Aqueduct.
To me, it's dopey now, and it seems to be now coming like a tidal wave that the Belmonts are going to be at Saratoga, and that we're not going to be running at Belmont Park for a long time. How is this Aqueduct turf course going to make it?
I felt on closing day it was still up in the air, but then Dave Grenning had an article 4 or 5 days ago, or maybe a little bit longer, that seemed to confirm we're not going to be back at Belmont.
Yeah, there's not going to be a spring-summer meet at Belmont Park. I mean, and that's, we had that last year. This is the second year of the Aqueduct after Saratoga. But, and still my favorite part, no artist rendering drawings.
No,
but somebody did speak out, and it might have been Pat McKenna, who said something not as cryptic as it sounds if you follow the industry, that it's going to be more in line with today's game, which tells you when that the grandstand is going to be like
expanding the backyard and shrinking the grandstand.
Yeah.
And it's I think a full takedown of what is there now.
Yes. It's getting, and I will say, because I've said this many times before. It's hard to get past the tragedy of the 1990 Breeders' Cup at Belmont. But if you look at it on YouTube, it looks like a beautiful autumnal morning. It was about as cold as I've ever been at an outdoor event, because it was made of cement. It held in the dampness and the coldness. They probably should have moved it 20 or 30 degrees in a different direction.
Yeah, in
before
relation to the sun, that was a little.
So
funny
it's
too.
going to be outstanding. I only laugh. I don't care. But I've never seen a project that didn't have the artist rendering drawings because I think it's going to be outstanding. You know, I understand when they go for a Triple Crown, they're going to have to do some stuff. But my best example is when Gulfstream changed, and I always know when Gulfstream changed because of our life, my family's life. It was 06. And Denise and we became pregnant for young Anthony. So we went down. And I will say that the vast majority of people.
That was like a pregnancy celebration.
Well, okay, now I got to tell the story. For Christmas.
I want to hear the story.
So for Christmas of 05, my gift to my wife was we were going to go to Paris the first week in October and see the Arc and do other Parisian things. In January, we become pregnant for Anthony. So obviously we're not going to fly. So I said, pick something in the next 10 weeks you want to do, and we'll do it. And she said, I'd like to just go to South Florida, relax for a while before we become parents. So we went to South Florida, which she enjoys very much. And we went to the new Gulfstream Park. And many people had poo-pooed it. But I loved it first, right out the bat. And I said to somebody, my best reaction was, Seth, I went there, and you guys go down for the Florida Derby, so it's probably even more so. It felt packed. And that was just my feeling. So then I get the Miami Herald in the morning, and it said there was like 8,000 people there. My point was, I didn't realize how small it had become, but it felt like a lot of energy. I loved the paddock. I'm sure they still have it. People were walking around. You could, this was before your phone. They would take your bet, so you didn't have to get up. It was sunny. It was beautiful. I loved it right off the bat. My point being, I anticipate loving the new Belmont Park greatly because I think they're going to do all the things right that they should do, and it's going to be an enjoyable day going to the track.
I was never at the old Gulfstream. I kind of regret that because everybody talks about it in glowing terms. Oh, really?
No,
most people, because they say it had a backyard as well. And
this is my opinion of romanticism. It was an airport hangar. So how you can be in love with an airport hangar. Now, Hialeah was like Saratoga in the winter, but the old Gulfstream Park was an airport hangar. It's great to be there March 31st in sunshine, but I didn't think it was anything.
Like I said, I was never there, so I can't compare it.
Paddock,
but I like the new facility.
I agree.
The seating, but I don't really sit in the seating when I'm there. The seating seems a little funny to me, like just the regular kind of grandstand seating. That
was about the only thing they missed. They probably should have put in like 3,500 seats or something.
And it just seems like you don't have enough room to walk to. It's funny to me, but it's not a big drawback by any means. And I also, they're kind of a mixed feeling, but overall I think it's okay with the back end now being that retail, because I think you can maybe pull in a new crowd. There's some restaurants back there and some shops, and so I'm sure they have some people that will go to a restaurant, maybe pick up the track a little bit. So overall, I think the new one works. We'll see how Belmont makes out. But to your point, I had the pleasure of meeting Stella Thayer at the track the last week or so, who owns Tampa. And I said, I love your track. And that is exactly that. Tampa, you go there, and there'll be a real buzz in the crowd, and there'll be like 8,000 people or something. But there's a nice buzz in the building because of that. I have a feeling Belmont will be a little bit bigger than maybe. We'll see. But I still think it'll be one of those where you get that 8,000 or 10,000,
and it feels good.
Like, yeah,
I think that's I think that's important when people go to the track. I mean, it's newbies, obviously not us. They got us. They've had us for 40 years, but it's young people be like, there's action, there's a buzz, there's things.
Yeah,
so I think it's going to be fantastic. I just
laughed
at
21st century facility.
I just laughed at we're going to start getting a crayon and late, because I'm also wondering is it done and hiding in somebody's vault someplace? I mean, they can't. It's hard to imagine they're going to start from scratch next year. Like, okay, what do we want to do? So I laugh. I'm sure it's going to work out. So, but it's, Breeders' Cup time. It's completely different nowadays. It's amazing how much it's changed. And I'm not talking about change from 1984, folks. I'm talking about changing from like 19 99 or 2000. It's really turned on its head upside down. But I love it. It's my favorite 2 days. It's at Santa Anita. I can't wait. Next year it's at Del Mar. I don't love it as much. It should be at Santa Anita when it's in California. Here's the thing. Del Mar is too small for the Breeders' Cup because Del Mar is perfect for every other day. I told fans that went out there the first time, I said, they're in the backyard. I go, you're looking at the whole place, right? There's no hidden, this is it. You're looking at it, but it'll be nice weather, etc. So, very interesting time of year, how horses get to the Breeders' Cup, etc. We have the Woodbine Mile today, one of the premier, middle distance turf races in the United States. And I don't, pay attention to these things, but I trust it's a win and you're in. I mean, it's one of the great North American races, right? The winner must get all fees paid for the Breeders' Cup Mile.
I think that's the case. Certainly with the 2-year-old grade ones, those play into the 2-year-old turf races. And I talked to Tommy Bellhouse a couple nights ago that West Point has Carson's Run going in the summer, a race they've won before, which is on the undercard. They bunched them up. The 2-year-old races used to be on Sunday, but they bunched them up.
They've gone to that idea of the big day.
They're this afternoon.
Nice.
The Woodbine Mile, though, I'm taking a little shot in there. Woodbine Mile, I'm going to take a shot with War Bomber, who comes off the win in the King Edward, 6-1 on the morning line. Cheryl Spite is maybe interesting for Roger Atfield, ran 4th in this race last year. But Master of the Seas coming over Charlie Appleby off a nice win at Ascot back in July is even money on the morning line. But the Appleby horses,
not this
as
year,
compared to the last couple of years, aren't quite as proficient necessarily. And I also thought Ice Chocolate for Mark Cassidy, who just dominates up there off the finishing behind Casa Creed and the 2 stakes up at Saratoga was interesting. But I'm take a little shot with the War Bomber in the Woodbine Mile.
I think I would go the direction against Master of the Seas almost normally. But Cheryl Spite, we had this a couple times, Seth, at Saratoga. Master of the Seas is even money. Cheryl Spite is 5-2. I'll be intrigued to see which way they go. If it goes down to 4-5 and 7-2 or 3-1, I'm even more intrigued. But I'm wondering if My Sea Cottage it is a long, full quarter mile. They are straightened out, headed for home before they pass the quarter mile pole. But My Sea Cottage, I think, is going to be comfortable on the front end. Now, whether the mile at this classification is way too much, but I'm also thinking you're going to get far better than 15-1. So that would be part of my trifecta intrigue is My Sea Cottage from Mark Cassidy, a rank outsider, but I think we'll be taking him along as long as he can. I think War Bomber will sit right behind him probably and tag him, and that might be the taxing effort, but very intriguing. Yeah,
Dylan Davis on board My Sea Cottage.
Yeah,
Rosario on Ice Chocolate, John Velasquez on Cheryl Spite.
So they're out of town. And one thing I have to laugh, and there's no bigger fan of Into Mischief. And I love Spendthrift. B. Wayne Hughes was a USC alumnus. He was a big donor to USC. He was the patriarch of Spendthrift. So they've had $15 million Into Mischiefs at the sales. So it's now a world record because they surpassed Stormcat. But they brought up Northern Dancer. And Northern Dancer had 11. He had 11 in 1983. Adjusted for inflation. I'll tell you folks one good thing about if you're 50 years old ever, the good thing about the early 80s and now is you can either multiply by 3 or divide by 3 to get equal weighting. Northern Dancer had one that sold for $8.4 million. So that's $24 million, which is more than the aggregate of the Into Mischiefs. But I love when they put Northern Dancer up there. 1983, I go, do you know how much those horses were? Because that, Seth, was when I really got into this game. I could buy the form every single day. But so I looked up all the Northern Dancers that year that were sold, and it was 11. And we don't have time to go into it, but this is one of my arguments, Seth. They were all stiffs. All of them. I think 7 of the 11 never ran. Their aggregate one-loss record was like 7 for 35 of the ones that ran. And trust me, they didn't make their money back as brood mares. And then somebody on Twitter today put, I always go after these like this, in the air, it's in the air, was in fold to Seattle Zoo. They sold it at one of the sales for $4.5 million. The horse never ran. Because my argument is all the time, I said to you at summer, they don't want to follow these horses, but I'm taking a winter and I am going to. These mares that they sell in foal, I can never think of one that's ever worked out.
At that level.
Yeah, that's the one that, you know, they pay 7 figures. And it's like, do they read broodmare produce records? It never works out. And you pay 7 figures for it. I mean, I laughed when I saw the Into Mischief, though. I go, do you know who Northern Dancer was? I'm like, unbelievable. 1983 money versus 2023 money. These people obviously didn't go to economics class in college.
But we were talking, did you mention it before we were on the air or after? They're talking about the breeders and you know, they're happy to point to what's happening today. And
well, they don't want anybody to pay any attention. They're like, you know, you're speaking to a second grade class. So, I mean, but I mean, these Into Mischiefs, I mean, there's no stopping him. I mean, he seems to, you know, you don't even hear talk about Tappet or Uncle Mo anymore. It's just Into Mischief, $15 million ones. But like I said, basically in 1983 money, that would be like $330,000. You weren't getting a Northern Dancer for anything like that. It's just really the real point I'm trying to make is, if you're not old enough, you can't know how Northern Dancer was as a stallion. There might never be anything like him again, and you should never say that in sports.
All right, ready to roll?
Yes, at Aqueduct. Don't say that other thing.
Do
you call it that all day?
Yeah, well, I go back and forth. I don't know. I don't have any big feeling. I mean, it is kind of goofy, but it is a separate meet. You know, at the end of the Belmont at Aqueduct meet, there'll be a separate list of leaders. And
you remind me of the people that now this was actually, I thought, appropriate. When they used to go to the inner dirt track, they changed the statistics, which made sense. It's a different course. Yeah. You're not changing course, but I think it's going to be interesting to me is what's the turf course going to look like in July?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that to me is part of what has happened to American racing. There used to be the different parts of the country. Most of them you can think of had at least a circuit of 3. Down in Maryland, down in Florida, out in California.
You remember Bowie Racetrack, huh?
And it's not the case anymore.
No.
And so when you're racing that much on any turf course,
it's unbelievable. That's
good
luck. Toll. I was surprised to hear it. I actually didn't think they were not running at Belmont Park, but they're not for a while, I guess.
Yeah, as I say, it was as recent. I thought the end of Saratoga, it still seemed to be kind of up in the air whether.
Seems like May 1st, 2025, like weeks before Anthony graduates high school, we're going to have racing at Belmont Park.
Yeah. So
but I'm intrigued.
They will be at Aqueduct, although that also, and if folks aren't familiar with this whole situation, that means we'll be back at Saratoga, at least briefly, much earlier than usual, because the Belmont Stakes will be at
Somebody quoted hotel prices. And they're through the roof for what we all kind of, Belmont weekend.
That's funny. All right. Speaking of Belmont at the Big A, however, we're going to kick things off on this first Saturday of the meet with maiden special weight runners going 6.5.
I don't suspect we'll have any $185 winners here today. You saw the one at Churchill down yesterday?
That was crazy.
And I thought back historically, I think there's only been one horse in like 40 years that paid that price at Saratoga. I mean, 185 is it's unbelievable.
And that horse probably didn't deserve to be that price.
I think the horse was 15-1 on the morning line.
And I don't remember what the morning line was, but the trainer with a very limited sample is hitting it like 30%.
It's going to be in the black. I said to our director, it's going to be in the black for 4 years based on the rate that Get Twisted, the first time starter in the 4th race yesterday, was 15-1 on the morning line and went off at 91-1. That's just remarkable. It's my old country house line in the Derby. was 30-1 on the morning line. It wasn't, my doing that the horse was 60-1, but this is the Constitution into Mischief Invitational. We got 3 Constitutions and 2 into Mischief. I'm 5-3-2 in the opener at Aqueduct. I think it's a competitive race. I watched the board here. My thought was that the 5, the firster for Belmont going out for Juddmont, one of the 2 into Mischiefs, would be a price in here. Because Commander of Truth, the 3, is 7-2. Ignite the Light is a big price at 12-1. Hurricane Nelson is 6. This is going to be an intriguing race to watch the board. But I took the into Mischief out of the Tappet mare, 8-1. I think the price will be insulated by the other runners. Another firster for Chad Brown with IRAD, and offering a Constitution, who has solid works coming up. And then I have Ignite the Light, the other intermission. Richard Dutrow Jr. already doing Richard Dutrow Jr. things. 5-3-2, right? He had a double yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I
went with the other Chad Brown runner.
Yeah,
Hedge
the risk. You already got the race.
Who has a couple win early siblings by your side, won the first 2, but a sibling called Highly Respected won its career debut for Chad and Klarovich. This one coming off the debut effort where it had a little bit of trouble. Yeah. But I'm curious if we'll get that 5-1. If it's a 5-1.
Well, the intriguing part to me here, and it is Hurricane Nelson, right, who's 2-1 on the morning line, ran an 80 in defeat and debut, was 24-1. Now you're looking at 1/12 the price, and I'm expecting regression. Now, that's just me, folks, but very intriguing. Also notice, I got to make a quick note of this because, Seth, I have followed your dictum of the buyer speed figure things. There was a horse yesterday at Churchill Downs. All right. He had the best buyer speed figure and paid like 20. The horse only had 2 races, the whole field. Horse paid like $23, and it had right in the notes, same surface, so don't get goofy on me. And I'm like, that you're 100% right. That rarely happens. It is so powerful. And I was like,
sometimes the connections can
Yes,
overpower.
that was the case.
Yeah,
there was the wrong connections for betting.
Second race at Belmont at the Big A. These are allowance non-winners of 1 other than runners 3/4 of a mile.
And I'll say this race does go through Dan Collins and Bonaventure Stables Oceans Reserve, because you are supposed to draw a line through the last race of black felt pen with the reins breaking. So you go back to the 2 races back. That was the final New York bred allowance condition. The horse ran like a champ. This, so now enters the open company. Oceans Reserve is 8-5. I do think the race goes through the 7, but I am 4-7-2 looking for a price. Capone for Richard Dutrow Jr. This horse makes the first start of the year in a new barn. I saw Jimmy Jerkins won in Saudi Arabia yesterday, so kudos to him. New barn. Richard Dutrow has found the winner's circle aplenty already. Sugar Gray Leonard, his other runner, the other one at a shorter price, is my 3rd pick, with Oceans Reserve 2nd. I didn't notice this, but I'm trying to think. Richard Dutrow was 2 for 2 before yesterday at this meet, folks, because I did this work yesterday. So he got 2 more winners. Unbelievable. But 4-7-2. Good luck to Bonaventure. Oceans Reserve is in great form. Too bad what happened up at Saratoga, but they get their chance today.
I was standing watching the big screen in the clubhouse with some of the Bonaventure people, including Dan Collins, and they were all kind of like, what? And then Dan went out and talked to the jockey, came back and said the reins broke just as the replay was going. And if you watch the head on, it's like right out of the gate, you can see it flopping. So he never had a shot in there. And he clearly, he's one of those horses that always gives a good effort.
Right.
So
you're hoping that effort didn't spoil this one, because he's so sharp right now. I mean, it's never a good thing, but you're like, my horse is going bad, I'm less, but this horse is razor sharp. I hope he is again today.
3rd race today, we are looking at maiden specials going 8.5 furlongs on the grass.
7 in the main body, folks. The MTO is the 8. 2-5-1 for me, and Kayla is my top pick for Chad Brown, making the first start of the year as a 3-year-old now, gets LASIK today. But the thing for me is Kingman as a middle distance stallion in the United States. Nails on. I'm telling you, folks laugh at me for the horses I picked, but I would sign up for 7-2 right now. For a second, number 5, Vanish, making the first start since opening weekend at Saratoga. Now, typically opening weekend at the fall meet in New York City, there wouldn't be that big a gap. It was 2 months ago this horse ran. And for third from the rail, War Princess, Todd Pletcher's runner, going out for the 5th career start, but first one since March 12th down at Gulfstream Park, 2-5-1 in a race that I have to tell you, I know we talk about the Chad Brown effect. I find it incomprehensible this horse is anywhere near 7-2.
I went with African Waters, and I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out because I went with African Waters because there are a number of win early siblings, and I found all that out before I went and re-looked and saw they paid $1.2 million for this horse, and it's 6-1 on the morning line for a shug horse. The dam was more of a dirt, but produced a sibling called Arafera. Won the first 4 starts of the career. Another one called Luke's Alley won the first 4 starts of the career. I thought this horse could be interesting first out of the box, but now I'm going to. And
how about the other firster though? The Frankel with Pippi Longstocking, like out of a Tap and Mary. You want to go up against that with Bill Mott?
So the odds are going to be really interesting because 1.2 million. I'm going to be interested to see how that race plays out.
We don't have enough time. I'd be running into Seth's race across America, but I want to make this quick. This is where I like. So Gainesway was the breeder. They sell it for 1.2 million. Gainesway is the part owner. I just want somebody to connect the dots for me.
Yeah,
it's I'm not saying it's not suspicious, but it doesn't make much sense. So did Joe Allen? They bought the horse for 1.2 million, and then Gainesway came back in for another price.
Sometimes that happens. And
yes.
4th race this afternoon, plain vanilla 20,000 claimers, 6.5 furlongs is the trip.
Because you wonder sometimes, does that make the 1.2 million
whole? No, that's fair.
If they, I'll give you 400,000. I'll back in. Okay, I'm 1A 6-4, and I was close to being the 1E for David Jacobson, who was also like Richard Jutro Jr. found the way to the winner's circle, but scheduled to break from the number 8 post position. Joker Boy. This horse was at Santa Anita around Preakness Stakes time, has run at Penn National and Delaware. Since then, I'm throwing those races out. This horse is in for 20. They had blinkers. David Jacobson took a few, not too many starters to get his sea legs back, but he's back working his magic. Joker Boy, my top pick. For second, Bust and Shout, going out for Roddy and Mary Valenti, an offspring of Bust and Stones, was sharp at Saratoga, winning a Claimer 16, and Never Early, making the first start since early July from Finger Lakes. 1A 6-4.
5th race this afternoon, allowance non-winners are 1 3/8 miles on the grass.
Yeah, so I am 5-1-6. B Major is a big price in here, and I'm thinking I'm going to get all of it. The 15-1 morning line. The effort coming off of the hurdles was a solid effort, going 1 mile and 1/8. But then the race at Monmouth Park at 11 furlongs. I think the foundation's there. I think I have one of the runners that's going to enjoy 11 furlongs and 3 turns, and I'm going to get a big price on the offspring of English Channel. Ramblet, Cyber Ninja from the rail, broke the maiden, then tried the Belmont Derby. That was a little steep. So this offspring of Arrogate broke the maiden at about 11 at Belmont, the real Belmont. And for third, Ramblin' Wreck, who we saw just get beat in the Rick Violet, put up against Let's Go Big Blue. So 5-1-6. And I think what is a very nice allowance race.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more of Belmont at the Big A. A little bit later on, Churchill down. Stay tuned.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth, Merrow, and Anthony Mormino. I will remind you that Sunday, tomorrow, today, I think it's a double promo day here at the Clubhouse Racebook. That is correct. Win a bet and match bet, but Sundays, football Sundays, and I bring that up because you were saying to me all summer long.
You were the first person I thought about.
All summer long.
Hey,
you weren't the only one. People also, and I was kind of hesitant, just being a lifelong Jets fan. 4 plays. Come on, 4 plays.
You won the game. Have some optimism.
I did. I was cheering on the couch that final, the miracle touchdown catch. That was nuts, and then the punt run back. Oh, it was great, but it does. Oh, it was funny. I read later on they already had the line out for the Dallas game before this, and it was 3 points. Jets got 3 points. I guess almost immediately on the Aaron Rodgers news, it went to 7, and then shortly after they popped it up to 9. So 6 points for one player. Oh man! So yeah, but lifelong Jets fan, I could see that coming. 6 race today. Maiden specials, 6 furlongs on the grass.
I'm ashamed of myself. 2, 6, 10. I really am looking at these, and it's in blue ink. I can't believe I went for the Matoli. When I remember going over this race going, I'm not going for the Matoli firster, and I went for the Matoli firster. I'm embarrassed for myself. That's a horrible pick. I apologize, people. I'm not kidding you when I said I'm supposed to go for the 9. Don't say it. I'm embarrassed. But this is the worst job I've ever done. If I didn't drink Pepsi, I think there's something wrong. But I don't have this confidence in the 2. I apologize, folks. I'm not kidding you here. I know Seth's laughing, but it's it is supposed to be an entertaining show. But that's probably the worst pick all time for me. I don't even care if this horse wins by 3 lengths. And Aggro, right? Is that where the Taj Mahal is? This is my second pick. The Blame, Progeny, the 10. I should add the 9 in here. I don't see the Matolis. Now, you're always cutting edge of this. He is not lighting up the board, is he, with firsters? He's been sort of like, maybe not as a stallion.
Early on, I thought he was a little bit interesting, but just reading the comments here, going about 10% with debut.
This is, maybe Chad's got him cranked. He wins by a pole, but
this one also worked 9.4 before the.
Oh, so that's what David Aragonis. Yeah. But I can tell you, I can remember sitting doing this race going, you're not picking the Matoli first. So I can't believe that.
I'm intrigued with this race. I went 10-9 in here, so I didn't get your 9. But I used Progeny on top, who would have bailed me out of just a lukewarm end of the summer with the dark horse plays of the day. This was one of my dark horse plays of the day right at the end of the meet. And at 24-1, I thought I was going to put it in the bank. Out there leading the fractions 24 and change, 51 and change, turns into the stretch, Frank Miramarti says, and Progeny has a lot left, just as the rest of the field blows by, and he winds up 8th. So I'm back there. I couldn't unmarry myself in the 6th.
By the way, also, I'm getting 2 pictures because Waterville winning on closing day gets me above the watermark for the last 2 years.
So whose autograph do you have to get there?
No, that's not so much. The
okay.
the Kai Barkoa stalking is a thing. That is a thing. That is going to happen. Missing Fortune getting me to the finish line. And you were right. I went right to the thing. It's right there.
Yeah.
I got about $84 invested in 2 pictures.
7th at Belmont at the Big A. Starter allowance, so the 1-turn mile.
216, the true 1-turn mile. 216 Skylander gets my top pick in here. I know the trainer is 0-412. I'm not worried about this. This horse is competitive at this level. Comes off of a good 9 furlong race at Saratoga. For second, the one horse going out for David Jacobson, coming down from claiming 75. This is a rare case where I do think the claiming into the starter allowance is a drop down. And for third, right up. First off, the $40,000 claim. Tom Morley claiming from Linda Rice. Best of luck. 216.
Yeah, speaking of Linda Rice, she has a couple in here, and I haven't talked to you since closing day. How about that? Was a fun storyline. I had her in that Linda Rice in on closing morning, and then she wins a couple on the day and ties for the.
We're short on time because of my yapping, but I have a Linda Rice story that she said I could tell on the air maybe next week.
Yeah, very good. Oh, because when she got off, you were.
Yes, I had an interesting question, and she had an outstanding response, and she said I could put it out for public.
Excellent. 8th race, 6.5 furlongs for optional claimers. Non-winners are 2 other than.
Boy, 10-1A-9, King Angelo. Boy, he was so sharp last summer and kind of like missed him. And then he showed up in the entry box for this. I'm all in. Second start since May on the outside. Let's go, Irad, 9-2. Here's hoping. Part of the entry that I like, Durante, very sharp at Saratoga in the 1X. Now takes the jump up. But if this David Jacobson can repeat, going to be tough. And then 7 Nation Army, first off the claim, was a sharp effort. That was with moisture in the racetrack. We'll see today. 10, 1A, and 9.
Feature race this afternoon. It's the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational. 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and 3/8 on the turf.
6-5-1. But I agree with Seth that Charles Appleby's runners this year have not been like last year. But this one, I think, is going to be sharp. I'm 6-5-1. 11 furlongs in the United States for 3-year-old fillies is not really what we do. So I have Galileo and Dabawi as the grandsires. I'm not getting past that, folks. For a second, Highland Grace making the first start since winning entry-level allowance, first time versus winners. That was going 10 with give. And then last call from the inside coming out of a Kentucky Downs race. So you know how I feel about those. 6-5-1. And by the way, the last week at Saratoga, which was abysmal 2 years ago, this year was good enough. I might not take that big dip that I had been anticipating for 6 months when they run the matron this year. That is going to be a big dip, but we have softened the blow.
$90, right?
Yeah, like $95. Yes.
10th and final today. We're looking at maiden specials going 6 on the grass.
5, 10, and 6 for me. Multiple debut runners in here. World of Trouble, who for a while out of the Jason Service Barn was a World of Trouble sprinting on the turf. I'm thinking this is the first crop of World of Troubles, who is a son of Cantheros. Rosie Jeeks, I'm almost scared if this horse is 4-1 on the board. That might be dead on the board for a Chad Brown runner. For a second, number 10, Beats. Bill Mott's runner, an offspring of the great stallion, More Than Ready. And for third, Into Stars, Brad Cox's runner, was good enough on debut and should move forward. 5, 10, 6 in a very deep finale.
I will say on the 10, I have a note next to that one. See Agra in race 6. Supposedly these two are working together.
Okay.
So if Agra runs well, they give a little more consideration to Beats.
So we have sight of the Taj Mahal, and we have one of the few vegetables I like. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Churchill Downs.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes Handicappers
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Time to turn our attention to Churchill Downs. And I noticed, Seth, I don't follow Churchill Downs every day, but they're running those restricted 2-year-old baby races, which is one of the best ideas. I'm sure Connections have to feel the same way. Because in the opener, 2-year-old fillies, maiden special weights, going 6.
5'10", 7 and 11. Mo for us, Steve Asmussen trainee. And I only handicapped the last 3 days of Kentucky Downs, and I did all right. And it would have been a lot better if Copper M had got it done at a big price I think it was Wednesday for Asmussen. But we'll see if we can get it done with this firster in here. The sire Mo Tom, okay with firsters. 9-line bind was a sibling that won its career debut. Magnum won its career debut. Another sibling from Hometown Gossip, 3-3-3, third, then second, a couple of wins. So I thought there was win early, top and bottom, and Asmussen came ready. We'll go Mo for us. Second spot, Accommodate Eva, has some win early siblings, didn't live up to it as the beaten favorite in debut, but had some trouble and ran okay for Dallas Stewart, and Classy and Connected. First full to race, so there wasn't much to find out there, but Connect is an interesting win early sire to me, so I'll put this one in the mix with some experience under the belt. In the opener, 5'10", 7 and 11.
I think he's already had a winner at this meet. And I know it's unique and no one can copy it, but I always love how Kentucky Downs has the rails set up on day one, and they just take them down. They have the 2 rails out, and then as they just take them down, you get that last 2 days, they run on the inside. On to the third, 9 furlongs on the turf, maiden special weights, 3 and up.
3, 4, 7 and 2, Fayette Spirit on top. Lightly raced overall, and then had a gap from February to June, June to August. Now gets to string a couple together, and that August start really was only, the better part of a couple weeks ago, and it was a decent little closing effort. Add some blinkers today. I thought it all added up that the former assistant to Shug, Robbie Medina, trained runner, could be interesting in here. Clyde's got a gun in the second spot off a debut effort that I think one of those a good foundation to move forward from. And then Real Naughty coming over from Kentucky Downs. This one hasn't shown much in 3 starts, but what we've seen, I think, is probably good enough to mix it up with this particular bunch. The 4-1 is not super attractive given what we've seen so far. I mean, well beaten last time at 62-1, but that was the first try on turf. It was over at Kentucky Downs. The morning line odds maker may be seeing just what I'm seeing, though. With this bunch, Real Naughty probably fits. In the second, 3, 4, 7, and 2.
I always marvel how many 2-year-olds there are at Churchill Downs in the autumn. On to the 6 2-year-old fillies, maiden special weights, going 6 in race 3.
And both of these meets usually produce nice 2-year-olds going forward, too.
Yes.
3, 2, 9, and 10, but I think the 11 is interesting for Joe Sharp. Wouldn't talk anyone out of that one, but I put mischievousness on top. Sibling called Local Motive won the first 2 starts of the career. Unrequited Love, third, then a win. Dreaming of Love, second, and then won the 5th career start. So I thought there was some win early here. I'll go with that one at 8-1. Trainer's a little bit of a low percentage, but I don't know. Nothing else really jumped out at me in particular. Tommy Amos has Planned Champagne. Are you familiar with? Is that a brand name?
I apologize, Seth. I was looking at my
Plagne Champagne.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so So I'm just guessing at the pronunciation there. But by Cantheros with some okay workouts underneath, and then Managing Mischief in the third spot. Sibling called Static Fire won the first 2 starts of the career. This one showed a little oomph before fading in the debut. I'll expect the experience to be beneficial in the third. 3, 2, 9, and 10.
Race 4, Louisville Thoroughbred Society, a $300,000 stake in here with the horse that I've been talking about since he debuted.
Strobe.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Bango over Strobe.
I completely I agree.
You were talking when I had Brad on a week or so ago. You were talking about Strobe, and he kind of alluded that they were headed to this spot. But Bango's just a lot of fun to root for. A nice runner for Greg Foley. Certainly very much likes Churchill Downs. 18 starts, 10 wins at Churchill. Won a stake at Ellis in the last start. The workouts are okay. I'll go with Bango to continue that nice form at Churchill. Strobe, though, coming out of a second place finish in a stake at Prairie Meadows. But you look down, there's some triple digits there. This horse will certainly be tough and be a contender in amongst this bunch. And then Gulfstream Way off a nice little win at Ellis last time for Norm Cassie. I think could be a player on a best effort. To me, it's kind of between the top 2, and I'll tilt towards Bango. 4, 3, 5, and 6.
It intrigues me with Strobe if he were to win if Brad Cox goes to the Breeders' Cup Sprint. 6, I think, is his best distance. There's going to be some killers in it, but I'm going to be intrigued. Race 5, 7 furlongs, claimers in for 75.
1, 2, 6, and 5. I'll put Quick Hammer on top 4. The aforementioned Brad Cox comes in third start of the year off a couple of tries at Ellis. Finishing positions weren't much, but the numbers match up with this group. You toss that in with the move from the Lowndes Company into the claiming ranks, a bullet workout coming in. All says this horse should be live for a Brad Cox, Al Gold and Company. Debate in the second spot, also moving from Allowance Company into a claimer. Another one that the move I would think would be beneficial in here. And then Underhill's Tab hasn't been seen since March. That's the knock there. And having not been seen since March and moving in for a tag, this one, the move in for a tag is a little more dicey for Underhill's Tab.
Do you have the pop culture there?
Underhill's Tab.
I can't believe it.
Oh, is that
Fletch?
Okay.
Fletch.
All right.
Put on the Underhill's Tab. I have his Amex number. You want it?
Right.
I don't get many pop cultures, but I get that one.
I was seeing Chevy Chase in
yes,
my head.
You got it.
I was thinking more. I was thinking the golfing movie. I was thinking of Lacey Under.
Yes.
Yes. So again, for me in the 5th, 1, 2, 6, and 5.
Up next, the Open Mind, and folks, there has probably never been a better run from the Breeders' Cup to the Alabama than she put it. She never won after the Alabama, but boy, her run, from the Breeders' Cup 2-year-old, 6 furlongs, fillies and mares.
2, 6, 4, and 1. Wicked Halo on top. Short price on the morning line, and maybe deservedly so. I don't think this horse is a super standout. But I do think on the numbers this horse typically throws, probably has an edge on this bunch. Comes in good form this year. 4 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds, including the stakes win at Ellis last time leading into this. Interesting that the horse has been working up at Saratoga, but did not race up there. Instead had that July race at Ellis. Second spot, Sharp Hero. Interesting to me, 12-1 on the morning line. On the numbers this horse typically throws, I think a best effort puts that one in the mix maybe with Wicked Halo. And we're getting 12-1 versus 3-5. More Than Vows in the third spot, also 12-1, likely race for Brian Lynch. This one would have to probably move forward a little bit. The 1 at 3-1, I think, could be a player. Draw a line through the synthetic try last time. The dirt try 2-back is good enough. But to me, as I say, the 2 looks to have the edge. But I think the 6 at 12-1, more interesting than that morning line price indicates. 2, 6, 4, and 1.
On to the 7th, and I think they've reshortened these back. These used to be a mile race, but when they moved to the September meet, they made them a mile 16th, but now they're back to a mile. I think that's good. The Pocahontas for 2-year-old fillies.
1976. I am going to put Empire Island on top. I'm not thrilled with the post position coming out of the chute necessarily, but we'll see if this one can overcome it. I thought the debut up at Saratoga for Norm Cassie was very good, and the Mary Lou Whitney Silks, and brings a bullet work at Churchill into this. But what you have to like about that debut effort, sat off the pace and then closed nicely. That's always intriguing to see from a 2-year-old firster. So I'll go with Empire Island on top. Hot Beach in the second spot off a good-looking win to break the maiden in a stakes race at Ellis. Debuted, ran second at Ellis, and then they were confident enough to try the debutante and won that at 7 furlongs and won it pretty convincingly. And then you almost had me in the third spot. Tried the boys 2-back and won, and then went into the debutante and was the short-priced favorite and had trouble. Watching the replay of that, there was legitimate trouble with the stumble at the start. So I'll look for this one to rebound to a better effort, closer to what we saw when she beat the boys in the stake 2-back. I have it 1, 9, 7, and 6.
And in between the 2-year-old stakes, we have an allowance race, fillies and mares on the turf, going a mile.
3, 7, 2, and 6. Musical score on top. Brad Cox trainee. Debut victory at Horseshoe Indy was pretty good. Then followed it up with a little third-place finish at Ellis, but the number went forward. I say it all the time. A lot of times a horse takes a start or two to figure out the next condition. This one has had that start now with the non-winners of 1, should benefit from that. Haystack in the second spot. This horse is kind of interesting because you see it was trained by Chad Brown. And if you look up at the auction line, that's right, it was sold. This horse, when trained by Chad Brown, was owned by Peter Brandt. Just obviously was not working out for the Chad Brown, Peter Brandt connection. So they dropped it into the sale, and the current connections picked this one up for over $200,000. I think the horse is probably a good fit in with this bunch, but what will we get with the new trainer? We'll find out. But in the third spot, Storm Bay, lightly raced for Cherie DeVoe, but the maiden breaker was good enough to think this horse could mix it up in here. Another one that got some experience at the next level last time. In the 8th, 3, 7, 2, and 6.
On tonight, time for the 2-year-old boys to go a mile in the Iroquois.
8, 9, 7, and 2. I'm going to put Risk It on top. Steve Asmussen trainee for Ron Winchell and company. And as you would expect with those connections, By Gun Runner lived up to that breeding in fine fashion in the debut effort. Been training up at Saratoga, comes in off a bullet work back on September 4th. But again, off of that career debut, Risk It may be a nice one. We'll learn more about Risk It this afternoon. Patriot Spirit, also coming off a debut win. That one down at Colonial, but a pretty nice looking win for himself. And then Gettysburg Address, a Brad Cox debut winner at Ellis. The number's a little light, but you can also always get some improvement in the second career start. And at 12-1, a Brad Cox runner by Constitution that won nicely in the career debut could be interesting. I have it 8, 9, 7, and 2.
And in the 10th, on the dirt, fillies and mares in the Locust Grove.
4, 10, 3, and 5. I'm going to put number 4 search results on top for Chad and Klarovich. Tried the Molly Pitcher last time and ran third. Prior to that, a close-up second in the Ogden Phipps behind the very tough Clairiere. This horse has some nice triple-digit buyers on the resume. Just maybe has an edge on this bunch. In the second spot, Falconet comes off a nice win down at Ellis for Todd Pletcher in the latest effort. And I'm kind of circling and hanging my hat on that because I think that recent effort says this horse is just in really good form right now. And stringing a couple together like that makes Falconet very playable. And La Vida in the third spot. Also tried the Molly Pitcher last time. This one, a very close-up second. Nice win in a Thistledown Stakes race, $250,000 stakes race just before that. So another one that comes in good form and is logical. In the 10th, 4, 10, 3, and 5.
And at about 5:58, the finale. These 2-year-olds just keep on coming. 2-year-old fillies, maiden special weights.
10, 13, 4, and 8. The 13 is one deep on the AE list. If that one doesn't get in, take a look at the 3. But the number 10, Regulatory Risk. I'm always attracted to Chad Brown and Klarovich firsters. They paid just about $250,000 for this Daughter of Omaha Beach. A sibling called Palm Cottage won its career debut. Where Paradise Lay, third, then second, then third, then one. So I thought there was win early, top and bottom, and connections that can get it done early as well. West Sunset going out for Gary and Mary West and Brad Cox. There's a sibling called Meet and Greet that won the first two. If the 13 gets in from the AE list, take a look. And then Clear Voice, 10-1 from Cherie DeVoe by Kentheros, a sire I like, producing win early types. Vegas Magic, a sibling, won the first three starts of the career. So could be interesting. Fun little way to end up the day just before 6 o'clock this evening. I have a 10, 13, 4, and 8. Again, the 13 doesn't get in. Take a look at the 3.
And I got to think this is one of probably the 2, maybe 3 biggest days of the autumn leading up to the Breeders' Cup nationally.
Yeah.
We'll have that one other once Santa Anita opens up. I think 2 weeks from now, Santa Anita opens up. They'll have their big Breeders' Cup preview type day. I know Naira has one. As I said, they have only 3 Grade 1 races in the autumn in New York. So today's a good one. Great day at Woodbine. Hopefully they have beautiful weather to put it off. But, these are the few horses I think you're seeing whose work is not quite done yet. But you would guess after today, their work will be done. There's does anybody put in, not counting juveniles, 2 races in the autumn? We'll see. But a great day of racing, they march on. Beautiful weather at Aqueduct so far, Churchill Downs. So,
top of the hour, we will be talking some Woodbine. Ron Gearkink from the Daily Racing Forum, who's up there covering Woodbine racing on a daily basis. We'll be joined by him. They also have a nice stakes day down in Pimlico today, and a little bit later on in the program.
Their pre-fall meet. Nice.
John Piasek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association will join us. We'll take a look at some of their stakes action as well today. All coming up, top of the hour.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great Saturday. He stays, I go. We'll see you next time.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.